Recovery is stupendous.
Achievable.
Hope.
Freedom.
Empowering.
It's unique to everyone.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Getting a new lease on life.
Finding restoration after you fall down.
Recovery is having the freedom to enjoy life.
For me, it was finding a way to really love myself.
My recovery is possible in part because of my own sense of purpose.
Welcome to Montana's Peer Network Recovery Talks podcast. I'm Jim Haney.
And I'm Leah Wetzel.
And today we have another guest joining us. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Mandy Nunes. Glad to be here.
So today there's three of us on, and we're going to be talking about navigating the holidays in recovery. It's that time of year, folks, and we have all these holidays happening. Lots of family get-togethers. You might have a spouse or a partner that has also holiday things with their family or their work. They could have a workplace celebration. And so how do we, as people in recovery, how do we navigate these challenges that might come up? How do we do it and stay true to ourselves? And it can be challenging because it's extended. It's not a one-time thing. It's over a period of, a couple of months. Kind of starts, I'm going to say, mid-November and runs through the Thanksgiving thing. You might even have a long, protracted Thanksgiving weekend into December. There might be all these holiday parties, holiday get-togethers. Then we have Christmas, we have New Year's, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Then mix in, if you have sports fans, right? Then there's Super Bowl kind of stuff and playoff kind of stuff that gets sort of mixed into all that. I look at it like there's kind of a 2-month period of lots of pressure and lots of stress for a person in recovery that if you're not in recovery, you might not even think twice about it. But I think for us, it's an issue. It can be an issue. It can be challenging. So we thought we would talk about that.
Yeah, I think it's a great topic to discuss. And it's something I feel like I've discussed throughout my recovery with different people, whether it be, in the 12-step community or as a peer support specialist. I remember doing groups on this near the holidays when I was working for the treatment courts. Like, how do we navigate this kind of season with all of the stress that the holidays bring, not even being in recovery, all the stress of all of your family and all of the cooking and the financial, stress and burden of Christmas and buying gifts for everybody and, then New Year's and friendships and all of the different, work parties and friends parties and New Year's Eve parties. And it can be a lot. It can be a lot, especially for somebody in early recovery. But I mean, even now, we talked about seasonal change last week. Leah and I met and talked about seasonal change. And for me, these two things, the seasonal depression, seasonal anxiety, and then navigating the holidays in recovery are very intertwined for me. Those two things affect each other for me a lot.
Yeah, I get that. Last year we did a podcast and we talked about the importance of how we support individuals in recovery. Because a lot of times people that aren't one of us, they don't quite understand it. On top of behavioral health, on top of substance abuse, and then dealing with Aunt Susie, who I got that name from you.
Who gets a little tipsy, right. And she's, come on, have a drink with me. Come on, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Mandy, you threw something extra in there with the gift giving. That's another thing. When you said that, I sort of reflected back quickly on the early days in my recovery. and not having money to, really even support myself, let alone do the gift giving. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of just general pressure for people, causes a lot of anxiety, buying the right gift, the money, saving the money, it's holiday season. You want to get everybody something nice, have that special Christmas morning. That's a good point. There's actually that factor in there also. And it makes me think, when we're not healthy, yeah, we go out and we take the credit card and we buy a bunch of stuff. We're sort of irresponsible with it, right? And we sort of buy a bunch of things that we really can't afford because we want to make somebody else's day.
Absolutely. Or for me, when I wasn't healthy, I didn't have a credit card. So I would have spent irresponsibly if I had one, but I didn't have one. And so honestly, there was a lot of taking things that weren't mine to take to be able to provide those gifts. And so the holidays can actually be a really big trigger for people who have struggled with shoplifting
Okay.
because sometimes that's, even when you're in early recovery, those behaviors, they were effective at one point in time. They may not have been healthy, they may have been destructive, but they were effective ways to get our needs met or to meet the needs of others. And so that can be a trigger. That was a trigger for me in early recovery, was wanting to be able to provide things for people that I didn't have means to attain. And so it was a thought. It wasn't something I acted on because I had a lot of support in the recovery community and people that I was accountable to. But sometimes that seems like an effective means to an end. And so I had accountability partners at that point in time. I wouldn't go into a store by myself just because I didn't trust myself to make, the right choice. And the holidays were the worst for that for me.
Black Friday and
Yeah.
all of that. I mean, because I'm only 4.5 years in recovery, and I think back how things were when I was still in active addiction. A lot was depended on stolen stuff, products, and hygiene, clothes, that type of thing. So I could see where like Black Friday or all of that could be tough.
Yeah. And I don't think we think about that a lot unless that was a part of our life or our story. But I think it is a part of a lot of people's life and story. And it can be a whole different set of challenges over and above the ones that we kind of already brought up in the beginning of the family and, drinking and all of that. Like there's that whole separate kind of behavior relapse triggers that go into holiday seasons.
Yeah, and I think that it's sort of like I think for a lot of people, my experience has been, it's like, oh, it's the holiday season, so being excessive or doing those things can get sort of excused away because, oh, it's a celebration, it's a, right? And there's all that sort of pressure that everybody, I think, feels. Most people, maybe I should say everybody, most people feel. But then if you have any sort of lack of boundaries, any sort of substance use, it just sort of bleeds into this bad place of just, right? And most people in recovery have been in those situations where you're at a holiday celebration and Aunt Susie or whoever starts they've had a little too much and they start pressuring you, and it just, that sort of behavior, the whole thing, right, it just sort of lends itself to that, and can set some pretty poor precedents for the series of holidays that are happening. And then it's like, I can remember that, there was a time where it's like, sometimes I couldn't be a part of that, or I could only be there for a certain period of time. Like I could go to I could go to a dinner, like a Thanksgiving dinner, but then kind of like after dinner, I need to leave because
Right.
that's when things start to go, in my opinion, sort of downhill, and right,
Quick.
because now people have had the wine at dinner and a few drinks in them, and right. But then that creates a whole nother thing because you have these other holiday celebrations coming. It's like, oh, am I going to go to that? Now I feel awkward,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Because now there's like a second thing, and then there's like, oh yeah, we're having this other celebration, and or it could be a partner, a spouse or a partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, maybe it's their family, and their family's not in tune with recovery and wellness, and right, and things are more acceptable. I mean, growing up in my family, part of my family, drinking even as a kid, I mean, that was like totally accepted. Like the guys are doing a holiday shot, like you're doing a shot. You're a kid, and you're doing a shot with the family. Like that was you weren't getting out of that. That wasn't, was like part of being a man, kind of a thing. Like,
Tradition.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it just, and then once that sort of starts, that sort of behavior starts, and those traditions sort of set in, then that becomes the thing every year. So for me, when I got into recovery, and it was like, no, there was a lot of pressure there from people. Oh, come on, one drink isn't gonna hurt you,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I relate to that a lot, actually. I think, my family growing up, and even into adulthood, I would say that the vast majority of the people in my family, my mom's side of the family, not all of them, but all of the ones that I was around a lot, all have um, some form of kind of substance use and or mental health stuff, um, and untreated, or at least back then,
Mm-hmm.
So there was lots of um, alcohol and substance use and general kind of toxicity,
Mm-hmm.
um, that was very normal for me. But I know that when I got into recovery, like the first, gosh, I don't know, probably 3 years, um, I had to have, I think the first couple of years, I brought somebody with me that was
Mm.
also in recovery, like a sponsor or a
Mm.
friend who I felt like was solid in their recovery,
That's smart.
and told them kind of, I I
you, you
the
you prepped
dynamic.
them. You
Yes.
prepped them. You prepped them up. I
This
see
is
where
what
this is
to
going.
expect.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
dynamic, but somebody that I was connected to, that was supportive, that would keep me accountable, but also that I could have, that look across the room with when things start getting out of hand. You don't even
Mm-hmm.
need to talk. You can just give each other a look and go, this is time. It's time to go. Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Or I
nice
would,
to have.
yeah. Or I would have, you know, somebody text somebody like, hey, can you call me and have an emergency, like the bad date kind of thing. Like, because it just gets, awkward and uncomfortable. And I think sometimes it's also awkward and uncomfortable for them too. They don't, I like to believe that they don't always have these, bad intentions, that they want us to trash our lives again, or that they want
Right.
us to not
Right.
be
Right.
well.
Right.
It's normal for them, and they don't always know how to
Yeah.
support us. And
Yeah.
so sometimes it's just easiest to, like, how do I protect myself and also not make them feel awful for the fact
Mm-hmm.
that this isn't a comfortable thing for me.
Right. Right.
For my family, a lot of times they're sick themselves,
Right.
so
Right.
they don't, even comprehend that. what they're what's going on, how it's affecting anybody else.
Mhm.
My kids and I, we just a lot after my stepdad passed away, my dad passed away, we just started building our own holiday traditions and
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
things that we did.
Mhm.
You know, there's been a few times where there's been family get-togethers, and I've known since I was little. My mom's the oldest out of five sisters. On that side, there's always a lot of drama. And so I'm hesitant to really be involved with much of it.
Mhm.
But it's nice when I have like my cousin Mary or Kelly. She came up, my cousin Kelly is in California. She came up a couple of years ago and we had a family get together, and I go to a AA meeting because I stayed for the food and then I left, like what you were
Mhm.
saying,
Mhm.
and made sure I had my own ride, you know, my own vehicle, my own way to leave.
Yep.
And I go to my AA home group, and there she is. She's like, I couldn't handle it either. So
Oh,
we're
wow.
both in there for I think it was Christmas and maybe it was Thanksgiving, but yeah, you gotta have a plan A, B, and sometimes C.
Yeah, yeah. Plan. I mean, you both talked about that. I think a plan is key. One of the things I remember doing also was I would bring something that I wanted to drink and not leaving it to, right? You go to a holiday thing with family. Oh yeah, we got all kinds of alcohol and right? And making sure I bring something. And yeah, I mean, I would bring like, you know, club soda or something, and just something that I could I could hold a drink in my hand and have it. Part of it's a nervous thing, but also at least if you're holding a cup of something, people are less likely to push other drinks on you, right? Like
Yep.
you're drinking something. If you're standing there with no drink, then people are like, "Oh, you need a drink." It's sort of this, right? They think they're being accommodating to it all. And then, yeah, and then I think, and then the drama also, you're both sort of talking about that with families in general. You don't have to be in recovery.
Mm.
There's typically a lot of drama, and maybe you haven't seen people for a while, or, that sort of thing. So there can be a lot of that. But I love the ideas of, you know, leaving, going to a meeting, having somebody call you. Those are good. And the it comes down to, if you don't think you can handle it, and you don't have to go to these things.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have to. Or like Leah, I love your thing where it's like we start our own traditions, and you know maybe it's a smaller thing, maybe, you know Auntie isn't there, because Auntie,
Auntie
Auntie,
Susie's not
you know,
there.
right? Like, maybe it isn't, or maybe it looks different. Maybe it's earlier in the day. Maybe it's a brunch. People are less likely, to get into drugs and alcohol at a brunch than they are at a dinner and then
Yeah.
into the evening, like there's adjustments you can make that way. And I know for me over the years, I've made it more about the food, more and more about the food. Um, Preparing food, cooking food, making special things that I
Mm.
only make during the holiday season.
Yeah.
Your
And
cookie.
and exactly, that's exactly it. I'm not sitting around with the guys, right, and watching the game on Thanksgiving. I'm in the kitchen and I'm cooking and I'm busy. And it keeps me active. It keeps my mind focused on that. And it's my new tradition. It's not new anymore for me. I've been doing it so long, but I'm more focused on the food part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And I think I like both of those ideas. And I think I've applied both of those to my life as well. Now that, I'm in a relationship and my partner has kids, we have kids together in our home, you know, you are able to, when you have kids, it's one of the luxuries I think sometimes of having a family, is that you do get to go like make your own traditions and decide like I'm actually not going to come to that function. We're having our own.
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
have a little bit more control over who
Mhm.
comes and who doesn't and when it is and where it is.
Mhm.
I mean, you could do that without kids, but I think people receive it more naturally when you
Yes.
have your own kids at home. So it's not this awkward conversation.
Yeah.
I think so too. Like there's a respect factor. There's kids.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
People are like, oh yeah, your kids are getting older. You're going to start doing your own thing.
Yeah.
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 This will be my first holiday season since my grandma passed. And
Mhm.
so a lot of the stuff that, I did during the holidays took place at my grandma's house and revolved around,
Mm.
her and
Mhm.
the family getting together with her.
Mhm.
And so there's that challenge too
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
coping through grief and loss when your
Yeah.
traditions change, not because you wanted them to.
Yeah. Somebody passed away. Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be an interesting year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's where making new traditions is even more important. That's what you were saying, Leah,
Yeah.
right?
That's how I started.
These new traditions, because you had to. Yeah.
Yeah, because I had to. We lost. Gosh, the holidays haven't been the same for a while in my immediate family because we've had a lot of loss. And so, and there's a lot of behavioral health going on. So, some years my mom was just too depressed to get out of bed, and so my
Mhm.
stepdad would be up cooking and trying to make it like everything was okay. And
Mhm.
I get it. Grandmas are like the glue to a family.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Grandmas are grandmas, and especially grandmas. They're glue to the
Mhm.
family. And
Mhm.
I lost mine at a really young age, and it still affects the whole family today.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's hard, and
Mhm.
Yeah. I think I think it's important for me to remember as I, go through this holiday season that it's okay to be sad and to cry and to let
Mhm.
myself
Mhm.
feel the grief and not push it away because I'm
Mhm.
real good at not feeling the stuff and pushing it
Mhm.
away. I think at holidays it's a little harder for me to do that because I'm so sentimental like around Christmas and Thanksgiving and stuff. And so I think it'll be good
Mhm.
to let myself feel that, and I think I'm in a really good place with the people that I do have around me
Mhm.
to be able to do that in a healthy way.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the other thing I know that I do is yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since I've been in early recovery, so I've had a lot of years sort of practicing the holiday thing. But I view it so different now. I mean, I like, I'm thinking about, if you're out there and you're listening, I don't, it just it evolves, and just to allow it to evolve and be mindful of the holiday season and have a plan and think about it and take time for yourself. And pretty much every holiday year, I there's all these holiday sales, especially once you get to Black Friday, from then to, Christmas, New Year's, that sort of thing. And I have this thing now where I'll get myself something like a new set of towels, or new set of sheets for the bed, or something I wouldn't normally go buy, but it's like it's a wonderful time to buy those kinds of things because they're all on sale and
right.
there's these massive sales. But I sort of mark that as that's like a tradition that I've integrated now, like I don't buy those things really throughout the year. And I sort of wait until the holiday season. And then it's like, oh, yeah, what would I like to get for the house now? I mean, I say it's for me, but it's for the house. It's something you're going to use for years. And those are things that I've done the last number of years. And I think that that's perfectly fine for people to sort of mark the holiday that way, because we've been talking about getting together with families, but there's a lot of people who don't have big families to get together with. And
Yeah.
so, right. So if you're one of those people, it's okay. You can stuff is like really on sale. And if you have the money and you want to get yourself something, I don't think you have to feel guilty about that and feel like, oh, this is the season of giving. I'm saying that with air quotes, right? Like, it's like you can do that and create your own sort of tradition to, that you can start. And maybe you don't have a big family, or maybe you don't have very much money. So maybe it's something small. Maybe it's, right? Like whatever that's going to be for you, making a pie, like, you're going to a holiday thing, maybe it's, instead of just buying a Marie Callender's pumpkin pie, maybe you make one, and
Yeah.
it's not that hard to do. Like, it's not, you just look up on the internet, find the ingredients. Maybe that's what you give, and that becomes your thing every year. It's like, oh, Jim, that pie was really good. You gonna make that again this year? Or it's a salad, or I don't know, mashed potatoes or something, like you can pick something like that and it can become your thing every year. And you have this little celebration. Maybe you make a certain meal, or, you make a certain dish, whatever. I think that's another way to approach it, because the holidays they're hard for everybody. And I think for us in recovery, there's these added challenges that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Our
Yeah.
first year, being a family together, we were in the family living center, and we volunteered. We gave back. And then
Nice.
so when it was our first year in our own home, we went
Mhm.
back to that place and we gave back.
Nice.
We still do. I just brought a bag of those, the COVID kits.
Oh, yeah.
I had a, had a bag of them left. I'm like,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
get them out of here and take them down there. That's
Yeah.
kind of been my place
Yep.
to give back. And, when we didn't have much money,
Right.
that was our way of giving back, or
Yeah.
baking things, or DIYing things, or,
Yeah.
Yep. You can volunteer. I
Yeah.
know, I mean, I have experienced my share of homelessness in life and benefited greatly from the resources that we have here in Billings when I was homeless. And so there were times in early recovery that I did. I went and volunteered during the holiday season at those same
Mhm.
places. And
Mhm.
I think another option too, especially if you don't have a lot of family, or your family isn't healthy and you struggle with substance use, most of the 12-step communities, the AA and NA and stuff, have meetings, and they have recovery Thanksgiving parties, recovery Christmas parties, and
right?
open their doors to include people that don't
Right.
have that, so they can still have that fellowship and
Yeah.
the festivities without the pressure.
Yeah.
So that's a good option too. I did a lot of those too.
Yeah. Yeah. When I ran my drop-in center, we always did a holiday, a Thanksgiving and a Christmas. We would do it either like Christmas Eve or the day before. And then the Thanksgiving, I can remember I don't think we ever did it on Thanksgiving. I think it was either the Wednesday before or maybe the Friday right after, one of the two. And we even did the Secret Santa thing, where you put your name in the hat and you say the limit is $5 or $10 or whatever. You put your name in the hat, you pick a name. If you put your name in, you got to pick a name. And then, when Christmas comes, you you have a gift for somebody. And that might be the only gift that that person is getting that year, or it might be the only gift you're getting that year.
Yeah.
It works both ways. And so, yeah, that's a great suggestion, because most recovery programs, 12-step programs, drop-in centers do stuff like that around the holidays, as a sober, clean and sober sort of option, a healthy option.
Yeah. Yep. I was really blessed too in early recovery. I think the first couple of years I lived at a sober living home. And so I got to experience a lot of, that family like community and that kind of stuff, sober without the pressure, just in the sober living home. We did, Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas dinner and gifts and went and looked at lights together. And so that was really good for me to have that safe space and to see what that looked like with a group of people that were not drinking and using. And so
Right.
that also can be a good option. And I know a lot of times, even if somebody's not necessarily in sober living, a lot of times they'll allow, residents. So if you have friends and stuff in sober living residents, I was able to bring some of my sober friends to be able to experience that. So I think there's options out there.
Yep. Yeah. And don't be afraid to, double up on your counseling appointments if you need to.
Yes.
If you got stuff going on, talk to your counselor and just say, hey, can we do a couple extra sessions instead of going the other direction, which is, oh, the week of Thanksgiving we won't meet. I say double up. Like you should really think about that, because it can be a very triggering time for people. And these are your tools in your toolbox. All these things we're talking about, right, are the things that we have found to be effective. And if you're listening out there, I highly encourage you to think about, put together a plan. Don't just go into it blind and go show up at Aunt Sally's get together, really think about it all. And how are you going to approach the holidays? And, what are you going to do? And who do you have for supports? And don't just drop your support system for the couple of months as we go into this big holiday season. And start your own traditions. I mean, that's important. And year by year they go by, and pretty soon they become your new traditions, and that's it. And that, and those old ways you let go of, and the old things that you did or didn't do are gone. So
yeah,
I
agree.
Well, I want to say happy holidays to everybody listening. And Mandy, it was great having you on. I know you've been getting involved with more and more podcasts, which is good.
Yes, I love doing them. It's a lot of fun. I love having robust conversations about this stuff. It matters, and it's important for people to be able to hear and talk about and share about, and I'm grateful that I get to be a part of it.
Thank you to our listeners, and we hope you heard something today that you can take with you on your journey. And, you heard it from Jim and Mandy and I, make a plan, keep your support system strengthened and tight. And it's okay to, like Jim said, double up on appointments, and that's important. It's important to take care of yourself first.
Absolutely. Well said. All right. Well, check out Recovery Talks podcast from Montana's Peer Network each week. And thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery works, recovery is possible.
Recovery is possible.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery is possible.